Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Spiritual Remedy. My name is Sunshine Day, and it is a joy to greet you. Wow, here we are, another Monday, and I'm so excited to come live and just kind of talk about what we talk about on Mondays and really get an opportunity to chat it up and support one another and build our spiritual community of support and love. So say hello. Let me know who's hanging out today. Just a little bit about a spiritual remedy. This has been like in our second year now. And what we do every Monday is we have this opportunity to support one another on our road to recovery. Now, you don't have to be in formal recovery like a 12-step program or anything like that. However, what I am totally talking about is people who are sick and tired of being sick and tired of living the way that they have been living, and they're ready to make a change. Good morning, Jan Ford. How much do I love you? All the way around the world and back. So glad to have you with us here today. I also want to, just let you know that I see a world where clean and sober people are living their best life and loving it. I totally believe and trust that in recovery, what I mean by recovery is that we recover our whole selves. We recover our whole selves. And so I want to say thank you to Vida Spiritual Learning Center for hosting and making sure that we are on a live platform. Good morning, Sunny Day. Good morning. So here's a topic that I want to talk about today. Today, I want to explore how telling a different story about our situation can have a profound spiritual impact on our lives and how it can lead to healthier living. Now, today I want to really focus on the relevance for people who are in recovery or people who are moving away from the weapons of mass distraction. And some of those weapons of mass distraction can be a cell phone, can be drama, drugs, alcohol, gambling, shopping, you name it, food, all of that. As we move away from these weapons of mass distraction, those things that distract us from living our best life, sometimes the idea is that we tell the story around how terrible things were and how low down bottom it was. And I want us to really begin to take a look at the opportunity of what it really means moving from victimhood to empowerment. Now, my mentor, Michael Bernard Beckwith, talks about the four quadrants. Sometimes he says kingdom, but I don't want to be so masculine. The four quadrants of spiritual enlightenment, of a spiritual consciousness, of moving forward in our spirituality, in our consciousness. And the very first quadrant on the lower left side is victimhood, where life is happening to me. Life happens to me, life happens to me, this happened to me, that happened to me. And we live in this victimhood place, this place where we go, oh yeah, if it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all, or it's just my addiction. And we get to these places where we're just being victims. Like, I can't help it. This is just the cards that life has dealt me. And, one of the things that I've noticed is that addiction always thrives in the narrative of our victimhood and of our powerlessness. Now, true. Whenever I put any alcohol in my system, I'm powerless over what that alcohol does to me. great example of that as well is when I take an X-Lax, I have no control over what happens in my body when I do that, right? Like once it's in me, I'm powerless over it. It is now doing its thing in my body, right? So in that essence, I'm not arguing with anybody about, we're powerless over alcohol, our lives have become unmanageable, or powerless over, people, places, things, and who people and places and things are and what they do and how they relate. I am actually talking about I am not powerless over my actions and my thoughts, that I actually, with some discipline, can begin to navigate my life. So moving from victimhood to empowerment. Hi, Chintzia. So glad that you're with us today. Thank you. Thank you for hanging out. This idea of changing the narrative and changing the story that we tell to live a healthier life, right? So, oh, okay, Jan. Jan is saying here, my bottom was a spiritual awakening, and everything that happened prior to sobriety were stepping stones to that greater good. I like where you are going, Jan, and you've been around for quite some time. We've been friends for, many years, think like 22 decades or 20 years plus. And I like where you're going with that, right? Like when we can begin to see that the rock bottom that we've hit is this idea that wait, something good must come from this. Something wonderful must come from this. Hello, Janet Carroll. So glad that you're watching us on YouTube. So glad. Thank you. Right? Yes, and we've known each other for, 36 years to be exact. Who's counting? 3 decades. All right. Out me, out you. Yes, we've known each other for that long, right? So here's the idea that when we shift from victimhood to empowerment by telling a different story, we reclaim our power. But what power are we really reclaiming? And I am going to tell you that the power that we are reclaiming is our higher power. And that when we shift from victimhood and the circumstances to being empowered individuals, we are empowered from within, because within us and as us is this power, this presence, this life that is spirit, infinite intelligence, that creative intelligence that has created everything, and we get this opportunity to shift from victimhood to empowerment by reframing our narrative and by telling a different story, a story of resilience, a story of growth, a story of empowerment. And that's how we break free from that addiction cycle, and we begin to see life not from doom and gloom, and this is happening to me, but we begin to see life through the lens of Spirit of God. And when we do that, what we do is we begin to build a new identity. We begin to see ourselves as Spirit sees us, which is very powerful, which is abundant, which is glorious. And we take our past mistakes and those past struggles, and like you said, Jan, we use those as stepping stones to our greatness. When we align with this new story that we're telling about ourselves, about this resilience, about our personal growth, when we begin to let go of those ideas and begin then through some spiritual practice, right? Because even in 12-step recovery, right, we come to believe, and we actually recognize that within us, around us, everywhere present is a power and a presence that we can use for our good. For our good. And we begin to tell the story of that which we want to experience. And I'm not talking here the law of attraction. So that's not what I'm talking about here in particular, not the law of attraction, but I am talking about like the law of resonance, the law that, yes, that we are here that we are here, that life is for us, that there's nothing against us. Thank you, Ananda. Love you, bro. That there is nothing against us. And that as I begin to see, right? And so when we use words like always and never, like I always mess this up, right? Maybe it's really changing and shifting those words. Up until now, it's gone this way, and I'm prepared to seeing this in a new way. I'm prepared to having a new experience. Like this is all happening for my good. Something good must come from this. And the spiritual practice of affirming, of recognizing, of being in meditation. So these are all three spiritual practices: affirmation, prayer, which is treatment. We call it in our science of mind philosophy, we call it spiritual mind treatment. And it's because it is a treatment. Like, let's say you have a rash and you put an ointment on it, you're putting a treatment on it, and as you're putting that treatment on it, it is working for your highest and best. So a spiritual mind treatment, which for us is affirmative prayer, a spiritual mind treatment is treating the mind. And even though I'm pointing to my head, this is my brain, but I'm talking about treating that consciousness, that part of me that sees myself as less than whole, less than perfect, less than complete, that sees myself as a low down, dirty drunk, alcoholic addict who is no good. When we begin to shift that story and recognize that within me, in me, as me, when I move out of victimhood into empowerment, that I actually do have a say by speaking, using my words powerfully to say, wow, that was an interesting experience, drinking and drugging and all those shenanigans. And here's what I learned from it. Wow, I learned negotiation skills. I learned that, life is actually for me, and that when I actually focus for what's for my highest and best, that I can achieve those things. Because just like I got monies to engage in my addiction, wow, then I can do the same to engage in my joy and my pleasure. Oh, just like I had friends or acquaintances there, I can actually utilize that energy and actually make deep, abiding, loving connections with people in my life. Telling a different story leads to a healthier life. Now, here's the thing, is that in that prayer, in that affirming, in that treatment for my mind, when I recognize that there's one power, one presence, one life, and that it created everything out of itself, I can't help but think, wait a minute, if creative intelligence created everything out of itself, then I must be part of that creation, because, hello, I'm here, right? And if that's the truth, wow, then that means that I'm not junk. It means that that power, that presence, that infinite intelligence is living in, through, and as me. And that if I tap into this power and presence, I am powerful. And even though I might have admitted that I was powerless over X-lax, over drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, shopping, food, right? I am powerful when I reconnect, when I am conscious about the truth of my life. And I'm actually powerful and begin navigating my life in such a way that it is pointing towards what I want to have happen more than away from where I've come from. So, as I begin to also affirm my good and look around myself and have that attitude of gratitude, like I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head, I can speak, I have hair, I have clothes, I have shoes to wear, I took a shower today. As we become grateful, and that practice of gratitude as well for our life, that I can see, that I can hear, all of those things, when we become grateful, we begin to focus, and that begins to grow and grow and grow. So here's the deal, beloveds. Our idea of telling the doom and gloom story about I'm a dope fiend and all of that, that must change. It must change in order for us to live a healthier life. No one gets clean, nobody gets sober, no one changes their life to keep telling that same drab story. what we can do today is explore how telling a different story about that situation has actually been a benefit for us, and how it's led us to spiritual practices to move from victimhood to empowerment, how developing a positive identity, how I see myself now. I no longer see myself as who I was 36 years ago. I see myself now as a contributing member to society, as someone who contributes and is contributed to in that ebb and flow. I see myself as someone very powerful. I see myself as someone very loving and kind. And I see myself as someone that people love to be around. People love to be around me, and I love to be around people. So telling that different story leads to a healthier life, a life filled. One of my employers used to tell me, Sunshine, you have such a rich life. You have a rich life. And in the beginning, when I was first newly sober, I was like, man, I work for a nonprofit. How could my life be rich? And I used to think like, nah, that can't be true. But I now know what he meant. I now know what he meant about that. And my life is indeed rich, and I see myself in a different light. I tell myself a different story. So, beloveds, as we are, closing out, telling a different story about your situation is a transformative spiritual practice, especially if you're recovering from addictions of any type, including drama, and shifting from victimhood to empowerment, cultivating a positive identity, embracing connection and support like this, like being in spiritual community and having support, will help you to break free from addiction and from that stinking thinking that keeps you stuck in the doom and gloom and actually moves you forward into a healthier life. And so I just want to encourage you and be that voice of encouragement that says, hey, beloved, you are worthy. You are the unique, unrepeatable, magnificent, powerful way that life shows up on this planet. I love and appreciate you. And if you are struggling in that area and you want some additional help, that's why I'm here. And that's why Vida Spiritual Learning Center is here. It's here so that you can get the assistance and the support and the spiritual community that you need. And so whether it's, personalized coaching, whether it's group coaching, whether it's coming on Mondays like this, whether it's just kind of getting together with love-minded and like-minded people that are about success and moving forward, you can experience it here with us. So I encourage you to reach out to me, to go ahead and send me your gratitude list at 562-928-6460. And we can begin there. But if you want some additional support, please reach out at that same number so that you know that you are not alone. I also have some exciting news to share that on June the 3rd, Vida Spiritual Learning Center is opening its doors. We're having a grand opening, an open house. It is in Huntington Beach. Hit me up so that I can share with you the address. It's on Saturday, June the 3rd from 1 to 3 on Talbot Avenue in Huntington Beach. This center is all for your spiritual learning. Where's God? How to get in touch with God? Spiritual practices. We're supposed to, find a higher power. Get the higher power for you. We're going to have courses and classes that are going to start in the fall, that are going to be hybrid via Zoom and in person, that are only be in person, all kinds of groups for your spiritual edification. So, hit me up, send me your gratitude, know that you're loved, and until next week, please be good to yourself, take care of yourself, and know that I love you. Mwah. Bye for now.